Good morning. It is time for Art in the AM, and I have been working ever since the beginning of January in this watercolor book, and I'm about halfway through. These are already finished, so they're a little bit thicker, but I'm about halfway through what I've been calling the word of the week. And each week I have a word and kind of go through the definition, the synonyms, the antonyms, sometimes a quote, the color maybe that's represented. And I've done a little bit of art each one of those days here on Art in the AM. And it just turns into this fun little page of the word and a little bit of art. And sometimes I try like different techniques that I've never done before. Like this one where I painted upside down. If you didn't see this one, I painted this portrait up. It was upside down to me. It was right side up to you if you were watching. And I just like try different things, and it's been just a fun little way to experiment. You can kind of see the shine on that one and try different things. So I would love to know as we get started, just hit the heart button if you keep some kind of a book like this. Do you keep some kind of a journal, a sketchbook where you just try things and then you can close it back up? You can close it back up if you don't like it, if it didn't work out, if it, just was something that didn't go over well. Tell me if you have a sketchbook like this, a journal like this. I have a friend that calls it a practice book. And I like that because it is just practice. I still need to finish this one a little bit in here. And it just gives me a place to be able to try different things that they don't necessarily go together month by month. Maybe I might have some words that kind of go together, but I think this is one of my favorites in there. If you haven't tried watercolor, this was a really fun one. All of my videos that I do here live on Facebook get downloaded and put onto my YouTube channel. This was another really fun one too, with some leftovers that I had. And the videos go up there usually within 24 hours of them being live. They're over there, so you can watch them on 2x speed if you want over there. You can like binge watch. I try to put all of the word of the week ones kind of like in a playlist, so they'll just kind of play one after the other. But this piece one I really like too. I know the letters are backwards for you as you're watching them. This one I liked. I did this one on Memorial Day. And last week I did flow. And if you watched, it was kind of fun because this ink that I put in here actually did flow down. And I might do some other things to finish that. But I did want to show you, I went in and I put in some of the definitions, the antonyms, synonyms, and then but I wanted to tell you, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce this correctly, who is considered the father of flow. I don't know that I really realized that was his title. And today I'm going to show you a fun technique and give you a couple of words that'll allow you to talk about your artwork in a way that sounds like you're an artist. So I'm going to give you a couple of those words. But the word that I'm going to do today is quiet. Hi there, Terry. Yes, the flow, the dripping, it was definitely a little happy accident because I wasn't really expecting it. I think I picked up my book and it just like flowed down. So the father of flow define what we were kind of talking about last week with like if you're in flow, like if you're in a state of flow. And his name, I will try to pronounce for you. It's Mihaly. I think that's the way that you pronounce his first name. And then it's 6-inch Mihaly. I don't, maybe Russian. I don't know. But here's his definition, the father of flow, who kind of came up with this idea of being in flow. I remember studying this in college, and he has a book that's called Flow, I believe, and a whole movement around that. He says, and you can tell me if you feel like this is a good definition of being in flow, a state of deep engagement and enjoyment where individuals are so immersed in an activity that they lose track of time and of the outside world. And I feel like this is exactly what I was talking about last week when I was talking about sometimes I get so involved in doing my artwork and creating, I don't even listen to music. I don't listen to anything because if you asked me afterwards, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what song was on there because I can't focus on that and be completely immersed in my artwork and creating. So tell me if you've experienced that state of flow where you just completely lose track of time. I mean, I've been sitting here at my table for hours and it feels like 20 minutes. And I get up and I realize, it's dark out. Like hours have gone by. And I lose track of the outside world. Like I don't hear sounds. I don't hear, like I'm so focused. I'm so in flow. Tell me if that has ever happened to you. I feel like especially in creating, that's when a lot of times I feel that. I'm sure other people feel that when they are doing any kind of activity that they love, that they feel enjoyment in, and they're completely immersed in it. So it could be anything. Hey there. So Terry says it's a great definition. I feel like it is too. He, since he's the father of flow, he, came up with the definition, but I really feel like it is a good one. So, hey there, Sandy. I am going to do a page today, so I will go ahead and turn this around. I was having my coffee this morning. I hadn't had any yet early this morning, but I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to show you quiet. So I would love to know your definition of what you think quiet is. And I'm going to show you kind of the definition as it relates to art, as it relates to setting up a composition, as it relates to finding a harmony in your artwork. And that's what I'm going to kind of do as we go through today. I actually spent a lot of time creating this weekend, and I have a couple of pieces of artwork, and I had extra paint. And that's what I'm going to be showing to you today with the extra paint, as you give me the definition of what you feel like quiet is. This is one that I did that my friend was teaching. I think this is the direction that I had it. And actually when I look at this one, I kind of get like a quiet feeling, like the soft colors and the blues, and then the soft oranges. But because the oranges and this bluish green are kind of complements, I feel also like this tension kind of. I feel like this, the orange really stands out against these blues. So tell me if you kind of feel that, like you kind of get the quietness. It feels quiet because of the colors in the back, those blues. But then this orange kind of almost like vibrates on top of it. This was one that a friend did, and I was working on this one on Saturday, and I had some extra paint. So I did this little lizard that came from, you may have seen the photo. This was the inspiration for that little lizard there. And this was with some of the extra colors that I had from creating this one. There is a pink in there, and that's where that pink that I had there came from, and then these blues and the greens kind of mixing together. So I really only used two colors, a little bit more of that kind of greenish color in that. And this was the extra paper that I had from here. So it was all kind of like the leftovers. And I ended up having, let's see, I did a couple of other, I feel like I had one other one where I was creating in a little journal. I did some flowers, and I had some extra paints, and this is the extra that I did with the extra paint that I had on the little tiny journal page. Where did I put that journal? Oh, it's right here. So anytime you have extra paint, do something with it. Like do something. I think it was this one. It was this one that I did on my journal. So I had the extra pinks and the greens and then this blue, and that was what I ended up doing. And it's kind of a version of this one as far as like the same composition, right? Terry says you have to be very, very quiet. Yes. And then I did this little petunia in my, this is really like another practice book, because this is how I had the extra paint underneath here. So I just kind of created right on top of this extra. In a sense, I quieted this down to put something on top of it, right? I kind of quieted it down. Here was another like experiment kind of that I did, was this one. And I put the inspiration that I used for this one away, but let me tell you, I might teach this process because this was a really fun process and I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. I kind of went through this whole process, but look at this right here. That right there is one of my favorite parts where that came through. And I don't even know if you can tell how much layering is over top. I might teach this process. Do you like this one? Like, what do you think about that? Hi there, Bonnie. So I have some artwork that I was creating, but I had like an extra sheet next to me. And during all of those that I was creating, I was just kind of putting this extra paint on the paper. And rather than just kind of doing brush strokes, I decided to start making circles. And it was on a page where this was already on there. Like it was a journal that I had and somebody had a mark in there. Like they gave it to me and it already had this mark. I don't even know what that mark is made from. But as I was painting, I did realize that it must be something that is water soluble because it would move a little bit when I would paint over it. So I have this page of circles. There's kind of a lot going on, right? There's a lot of different colors, a lot of different, Terry says she loves that face. I might have to teach that one. Let me kind of think through how exactly, but it was just one of those days where I wanted to get out some supplies, and that's what it had to do with. So I'll have to kind of think through how I would want to teach it. So this ended up being a very loud piece of paper. And what I mean by that is there's a lot going on. There's a lot of color. The colors are bright. And if you think about a loud painting, a loud piece of artwork, this is starting to become that, right? And that is what I wanted to talk about really with the word quiet, is the opposite. And sometimes when we are creating, we have a piece of artwork that is loud, like overall, and there's a lot going on, and you can't focus on one thing, and your eye doesn't even know like what to go to because there's so much going on. And I'm not saying that there aren't pieces of artwork that are successful that have a lot going on, but if your eye doesn't have a place to at least initially focus on, and that's different than the rest of it, then there's too much going on that you aren't gonna focus, you aren't gonna see that. So we need to create a quiet area. And those are kind of the two words. If you start talking about a quiet and the loud part of your paintings, everybody say hi to my mom. I just saw that she popped on here. Those are terms that I've learned from an artist where he talks about the quiet part of your painting and the loud part of your painting. and how you can quiet things down. So that's what we're actually going to do. So I'm going to sit this aside while I make this even louder. And I'm going to show you like what I'm going to do here. So this is just a piece of sketch paper. It's in like just a sketchbook kind of paper. So it's a thinner kind of paper, which I really like to use when I collage things, is like a thinner paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep adding to this to make it even louder. And one of the things that you can think about, if you have a lot of colors, just like in this koi fish painting, if you have a lot of colors that are opposite on the color wheel, like this is kind of an orangish pink color and then like a bluish green color, those are kind of opposite each other on the color wheel. They will vibrate next to each other. They will be very loud. So if I overall look at this, it's a lot of pink. And if I think of the opposite of pink, then I think of like this bluish green kind of color. And I might just start adding to this where I'm just making this really loud. And I might even put black in here because that would be really loud. And what I'm going to show you is how to quiet it down. I think this is all paint that I used, because these paint markers are going over top of it pretty well. Oh, I kind of like those dots in there. And maybe I will switch to, I have some other of those. Oh, maybe I'll use this bright purple. Now the purple is closer to the pink, but when I start, this one is almost out of ink. You know, sometimes with the Posca markers, if you press it down kind of in spots, it'll, oh, there we go. It kind of gets the ink going. Oh yeah, now that is, kind of looks like a crown or something there, right? If you are ever wanting to do something, just start filling up a page like this with marks and with just different colors, and I'm going to show you how to really quiet this down. And you've probably seen artworks like this that are just kind of all over the place, that are just, I think I am going to take some black. Oh, here I have a black one. And they just have a lot going on, and it makes it just like hard to focus. And, you know, I could just scribble on there. And you're wondering, like, what am I doing? Well, really right now, I'm just kind of playing. And I'm creating all of these just kind of loud, right? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and quiet this down. And the way that I like to do that is to take gesso. You can use other things. I have, like, even if you had some white paint, but most of your craft paints, most of your acrylic paints are going to be opaque, which means that they would completely cover this up. I like the look of where I can see a little bit of this and I'm just quieting it down. So I tend to not use these acrylic paints just, you know, right out of the tube. The gesso is a little bit more transparent, so I can see a little bit more through it. However, I did use this. Folk Art is the brand name. It's a floating medium, and you can get other things that are like that too, but I used that on this koi fish. So if you can look underneath here, you can kind of see in a couple of spots, this entire page was this design. It was all of these colors together. It was all oranges and yellows and the pinks. So it was kind of like this, where it was all of this going on. It was all of these colors together. And what I did is I painted these blues and this green over top, but I made it a little bit more transparent with this floating medium, and it allowed me to see a little bit of what was underneath. So I'm just gonna talk to you about quiet. And sometimes you're not going to be able to quiet everything going on around you. But what I've found in my artwork is I can quiet things down with the gesso and still see all of everything else that's going on, right? Does that make sense? So you're quieting things down intentionally so that your eye focuses on one thing. So I love that, Janet. Surrounded by art every day. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and this is obviously bigger than my page right here. So I'm going to do a technique. Well, here, I'm going to quiet this down first, and then we'll kind of do the technique. I'm going to take my gesso, and I'm just going to put some right on the paper. Oh, I think it's kind of thick. There it comes. And I'm going to take my bigger brush, and I'm just going to start kind of painting this on here. And now I'm quieting down all of these colors, but yet I'm kind of seeing some of the color underneath. And especially when I have just a little thin layer of the gesso. Ooh, that purple right there was still wet, and it bled through. So I wouldn't necessarily need to cover up all of everything on here, but I'm kind of putting like a light little coat of the gesso over top of the whole paper. And I definitely have some areas that are thicker. So I still have like quite a bit on my brush here. And I have this other piece of paper that I'm going to just kind of paint a little bit of that gesso on there. And a little bit of that like really goes a long way. So now I've kind of quieted this down over here too. Yeah, it's kind of nice, the floating medium, because this is something that somebody gave to me. You could probably use other things, like you could use a matte medium, you could use a maybe even a Mod Podge, and do like the same thing. I'm going to take my paper towel on just some of the areas where it's kind of thicker. Oh, and now we're making some texture in there. I like that too. And then I see even more of that underneath there. Now, one of the things that's still really loud is this black line right here. I could have put some gesso where it was a little bit thicker, or top there. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that dry for just a second. Let me get my heat dryer. And I've started using this Heat It craft tool, it's very quiet. Glazing medium. Yes, that's another one Sandy says. Glazing medium. And it just works to make things more transparent. I love how I can see some of this underneath here. But it just quieted all of it down, right? And then that gesso just is transparent enough that you can still see some of that underneath. Okay, while I let that dry just for a second, I'm going to put that onto the paper over here. And I'm going to do one more thing over here. I am really liking this purple. And I'm going to put this back behind here. I'm going to paint some purple in here because you're going to see the other little technique that I'm going to try. I want to have some color on the background here. My paintbrush go. Isn't this a great purple? This is Craft Smart, and it's just purple Craft Smart. And you know, sometimes purples I feel like are really transparent, but not this one. This one's pretty good. And I'm actually going to take a little bit of this floating medium and put some of that on there too for it to just spread that out. The difference with the floating medium rather than using water is it doesn't dull down the intensity of the color, where if you add water, it starts to dull down the intensity. Oh, look at that little spot that just made when I dripped down the floating medium. That's kind of cool. Do you have a color that you think of when you think of quiet? Do you have a color? So I did add just a little bit of water. So that's going to just make the purple a little bit lighter. Spread out some of those areas where it's a little dark. Okay, and then I'm going to let that dry. I almost put my paintbrush in my coffee. I don't want to do that. I probably think of, yeah, Wanda says light blues. Wanda, that's kind of what I think of too, or like light blues, light, almost like a light green, like a sea foam kind of a color, a light tan, light pink. Like I think of the lighter colors, the more pastel colors, right? So while those two are drying, the other thing that I wanted to tell you about today is at 3 o'clock today, I am going to be starting my vacation trading cards workshop. And this is in a separate group where you get access to 3 videos that I'm going to do and the process, resources, and everything to make these trading cards. And you can see just by looking at these, they are all different. Look at how different they are. They're all completely different. And, oh, let me show you this one. Different colors, different shapes on there. Some are brighter, some are more pastel colors. And I'm going to show you the process. If you sign up for the Vacation Trading Cards Workshop, I'm going to show you the process of making these this week. It's going to go on this week. It's in a little pop-up group, and it is not too late to sign up. If you go to the events here on this page, you will find the sign up. If you click my cover photo here on the page, you will find the sign-ups. It is $12 for the workshop, and you get access to the videos, you get access to all of the resources and everything in there. And we start today at 3 o'clock. There is a group that you get access to so that you can see all of the videos and everything. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Okay, here's the technique that I want to try. And this is why I want to color down here. I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to put it on here. And what I'm going to try to do is kind of keep it, you know, I could just like glue that right onto the page, right? But I wanted to try a little technique here. I'm going to use my glue stick. And I really just want that paper in a couple of areas. I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do 3 little areas where I put glue. I saw somebody do this and I thought, I want to try that. So I am going to keep it kind of contained within the areas where this black line is not on there. So I'm pressing this down. It's all dry. Anybody else have a color of what they feel like quiet means to them? What's a quiet color? Wanda says light blue. I said a lot of the lighter colors. Okay. I think just that little area right in there could be like a cool surface to be able to do some other things on top of. But what I'm going to do is where I put the glue, and I'm giving a little bit of time, I might use my heat gun to dry. I'm going to lift up the areas, and it's actually going to kind of create the spaces on its own with some ripped edges. And I'm going to have that purple in the background. So we'll see. Oh, I don't think that it's dry yet. So I have to let this dry. Even the glue just kind of heated it up, so it actually made it so it wasn't dry. So we'll see. What I'm going to do is let this dry on here, and I'm going to, Sandy says a soft pastel green. I can definitely see that. I'm going to let this dry on here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up what's not glued to the paper. And it will, yeah, it's just still too, I probably just like need to let it kind of dry on there and not heat up, because that just makes the glue like wet again, right? So I'm going to have that on there. I don't know, I do kind of like just this area. Maybe I'll just change my mind. I'm going to try that sometime where I put the glue down on all of it, but I'm just going to cover all of this up right now. So the purple that I painted on there, I don't need that. I don't need that anymore, because I'm just gonna put this over top all of it. Let's see if I can't slide it down just a little bit. Nope, it's pretty glued on there. So that's what happens when you show up to Art in the AM. You never know what I'm going to like practice with in my book here. Oh, this is a quiet color. I do kind of think of it, you know, really it's a lot more intense, like in person. It's more of like a coral kind of color. It almost looks like not fluorescent. I don't like glow in the dark. I don't know. But it is kind of a quieter color than I usually wear. So let's see if all of that is glued on here. And what I'll do is flip it over to the back. And I didn't bring my scissors over here. Let me grab those. So the technique that I want to try is to put the glue down, and I need to let it dry, and then and then rip the page up. And what would be left behind would be the color, the parts of the page where I added the glue, but it would have the ripped edges. I definitely want to try that technique. But look at these fun little, now that doesn't look as dark to me. It doesn't stand out as much. And now I only have that little space right there. Oh, I need to cut this little trim off the bottom too. So check back later today. I'm going to have this finished. I'll post a photo of it. And I might even keep that little strip right there. And now I have that. And it's kind of quiet because the gesso's over it, but I can see kind of what's going on underneath. And then I'm going to do the word quiet on top of there in some way. I feel like I need to have this glued down on here a little bit better. There we go. And I will probably get some stickers and do the letters over top of here. But I kind of like how that looks on there. All those different colors underneath there didn't go together at all. But once I put that gesso and I can just kind of see through, even the black doesn't stand out as much. And then I still have these other little pieces that I can do something with too. I will finish this up. I will post a photo of it because I want to let it dry a little bit on here. And I'll post a photo. I may just even use my Posca marker to do the letters and to have it all finished. And then I'm going to put definition on the back, some synonyms, antonyms, and I'm going to look up the color that's associated with quiet. I think that it might be like a, not the soft pastel green, but like a greenish blue, like a oceany, really light seafoamy kind of, I'm going to look it up. I didn't look it up before the video, but that is the word of the week for today, the word quiet. And I'm going to finish that up. Hopefully you kind of learned a few things about gesso, about the floating medium or the glazing medium. And if you want to learn how to make the vacation trading cards, you can go to the cover photo here on my page. You can go to events, you can sign up. It's still not too late. Today, the video that I'm doing is all about supplies and just kind of gathering those up so you won't miss anything. You're not behind. You're going to be able to watch the video today. And then tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern is going to be the video where we actually create them. And very simple supplies, things that you probably already have, and we will get started creating them tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to that, and the ladies who have already signed up for that, and it's not too late to get in. I will see you next week for Art in the AM, and sometimes I know the word ahead of time, sometimes I switch things up a little bit, and it will be another word, another little technique. And I hope that you come back and join me next Monday for Art in the AM. Thanks.